Hi there. So, okay, let's get started, and I'm gonna kind of run through some different supplies. You can use whatever supplies you have, okay? So please do not think that you need to use the same supplies that I use by any means whatsoever. I have watercolors here. These are watercolors. I thought it would be fun to use Brusha with this fireworks thing. This is kind of a fun, it's a fun product. It's called Brusho. And when you, if you end up getting it, or if you have it, because I noticed that a lot of artists have it, but they're just not using it right now because they're not really sure exactly how to use it. I saw that in one of the groups that I'm involved with, and a lot of them were talking about, what do you think about Brusho? And so I thought that was kind of funny. So I thought, well, why not? Let's use them. So they come in these cool colors, and then what the best thing is to do is to take a, what is this called? A little, a push pin, and put it in the top. So I put it down in there, and then you open it by pulling out the push pin, and then tapping the color from inside of there. Otherwise, it's way too much and it's powdery and it can go everywhere and stuff. So it's much more fun to use if you use it this way with the little push pins inside of it. Okay, and then for the firework, I wanted to do wax resist. And there are a couple of different ways that you can get resistance on your paper. One can be using a candle. So if you have like a tea light candle, you can actually use a tea light candle. Any candle that you have in your household, you can use. I happen to have this Crayola box of white crayons. So if you have littles or grand littles, or you can use a really light colored or white for wax resist. I wouldn't go any darker than like a super light yellow though, because we're going to be doing the fireworks, and so we want that wax resist. It's going to go on the paper, and then the paint is going to separate from it. So I thought that would be fun to play with. And honestly, like, I've given away a couple of these, and then I still have all of these. So I have not, I don't use it that often, and I thought I need to pull out some supplies I'm not using often to play with for this fireworks one. Another way that you can get resistance on paper is to use acrylic ink. So this is a really cool, it's a Holbein product. It's acrylic ink, and it's super opaque white. And if you put that down on paper and let it fully dry beforehand, then when you put your watercolor on top of it, if your watercolor isn't everywhere, then it will sink into the paper around where this acrylic is. I'm not going to be particularly using that one today. If I use this for anything, it'll be to kind of go on top, the same way that you would use maybe gouache. But since we're doing fireworks, I wanted it to be pretty bright. I had to show you this, right? You're artists, you know. So I'm a huge fan of pareidolia. I can't even say the word. Pareidolia. Anyway, a little notification on my phone. I'm a huge fan of pareidolia or whatever. And one morning I went to dump the coffee filter, and I was kind of thinking of saving the coffee filters and using them for putting them into like if I was going to be doing collage with them. So I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna use it for that. So I turn it over, I dump it out, and when it flipped back over, there was this heart in there. And I just, because you're artists, I had to show you. I had to show you, because these are the things that I live for as an artist. I feel like that's like a hug from God, maybe my dad, any of my relatives who love me, they're up in heaven. You know, when I get something like that, when I receive something like that, I honestly feel like it's the universe speaking through a coffee filter. And yes, what is it, the quote, Einstein said, is that, you know, you can treat I'm totally paraphrasing here, but treat, you know, anything that you experience like everything in the world is a miracle or nothing in the world is a miracle. I choose to treat everything in the world as a miracle. So I had to show this to you. I'll probably show it again in the future. I don't know. I can't really seem to let go of it. And actually, it was a full pure heart. And this little bit here kind of fell off a little bit. But I was like, I have to keep it. I have to keep it. I love it. Okay, that's it for the coffee filter right now. We're gonna put that back over here. I have been exploring with the Derwent Graphitints, and so I pulled these out mainly because I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of want to play with them, yet this background that I'm going to be working on, it's going to be dark and things like that, but I don't know that I want it to be as kind of, the thing with the graphitin is that it's a little bit more muted. It's a little bit more charcoaly in color. It has that charcoaly aspect to it. So I have these colors here, and then these are, who is this by? I forgot. This is a Japanese brand, but it's also the same kind of theme as the Graphitint. So I pulled it over here kind of last minute as I was pulling supplies. So I'm thinking about those as possibilities. I don't know. We'll see if we move into them. I don't know. We'll see. And this is an amazing little set that I got years ago. It's a Sennelier set, and they're a French company. They do watercolors, and they mix their colors with a honey base in them. And so they have some really wonderful vibrancy, and I absolutely adore this purple. This is like such an amazing purple, and I have a lot of different purples, but this purple right here is one that I deeply, deeply adore. I also love this ink color. So you can kind of see in my palette here where I've mixed them at times. I've also added in a little bit of something over here. I'm not sure, maybe one of the greens, one of the golds. I've added some of those in here. But anyway, so we'll be playing with some watercolor. That's what I decided to use for this because I thought, look at these. The brushos have this brightness to them, right? Okay, it's a little too reflective. The brushos have this brightness to them in these really high pigmented colors. Okay, so the colors are really pigmented. And here too, this purple, super pigmented. So I thought, okay, I want to play with these. So that's how I usually approach a project when I'm sort of going through and I'm working through some of the things. It's like, what are some of the things I want to work with? What's most interesting to me today? What am I in the mood for? I try not to overthink it. And usually I have more than one place. I'm trying to film here so that you can see my process better. But I have my other area where I normally sit and paint. And so that's a little bit challenging for me because I'm not used to sitting here, but I'm going to try this for a filming aspect so you can see, you know, really what's happening here. What's happening here. My pups are in the background, so you may hear them jumping around. They went to the groomers today. I think they may want dinner right now. Although they did have some goodies. But anyway, they're my why. My pups and my horse, my why. My why, my why, my why. And my mom. And, you know, people who I love dearly, dearly, dearly. My brother, my family, you know. My extended family. Anyway. These are the Quran d'Ash. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. And they are the Neocolor 2s. They're very beautiful to work with. They have a really vibrant, you can use them as like the same way as that you would use a crayon, right? So they have like a little bit of a waxiness to them and you can use them that way. But then you can also take your paintbrush and activate with water. And so it makes them very fun to work with because you can use it as a drawing tool and you can use it as a like coloring tool and a painting tool and a watercolor tool with your watercolors. So there's just so many different ways that this can be used. The main thing I want to share with you today too is that I'm still going here. I have these pencils, or some different pencils that I've collected over the years. I have a lot of art supplies, guys, okay? A lot. And one thing I want to say is, first of all, you don't need a lot of art supplies to play and have fun and really enjoy yourself. So that is the key. Even though I'm showing you a lot of art supplies, and the reason I want to show you a lot of art supplies is that I want you to see what are all the different things that you can use, and how can you use them, and how do I use them, and so that it's fun, and maybe you think, oh, that's cool and I want to try that, or oh, I don't think I'd ever really want to try that, or whatever it is. You know, I'll take one for the team if it's something that doesn't work for us, right? And so anyway, for many years I had these pencils. And when I got into the Derwent Graphitints, I also got into the Derwent Inktense, and I got into, so the Inktense work as pencils, and then they also work with water. Some of these colors are just really cool. This is a green. Look at that green. Look at that green. I mean, it's really, really cool. Some of these oranges and some of these reds, they're really amazing. And then the other thing, and I mean, I have to say that like probably one of my all-time favorite tools is the Stabilo Awl. And the Stabilo Awl can work as both your drawing tool, and then it can activate with water, so you can spray water on it and it kind of opens up a little bit, and then you can use your paintbrush to move it around. And it's very forgiving, so if you put enough water on it, you can tap out some, you can use a Kleenex, or you can use paper towel, and you can tap out some of that water and pull off some of that, and then add, and then, so in the same way that if you were drawing with a pencil and graphite and then using your eraser, you can do this, okay? Let's see, what are some of the other things I want to share with you here? These are really cool. These are called Pacific Arc graphite pencils. So they're graphite, but these mix with water. So again, you've got a drawing tool that mixes with water. You'll see a theme emerging here, right? Drawing tools that mix with water. And then of course, I personally I love paint. I love it to not be completely linear. I love the softness. I love bringing things up from, you know, layering things in. So then, let's see. Go into some of these more and later, and these will be in future videos too, because I use this stuff like all the time. If I want to go into inks, I have these micron pens. I love the micron pens. I love them especially at the 0.003, 0.005, 0.001. Like, I love them tiny. I love them tiny when I'm going in for details on certain things. But you have to be really careful. If your paint is wet, you can ruin the nib very quickly, very easily. This is a very fun eraser. So it literally has, you can see I'm almost done with that eraser. I need to sharpen it actually. But it works like an eraser, and then it has this little brush at the end, so you can off your paper. So when you're working with graphite, you can be working with your graphite, and then go in either with the eraser on that pencil or with these, okay? I'll write down certain things in the supplies and things like that of what we use, and at the end I'll do a summary, a quick recap summary of what are the supplies that we ended up fully using on this. But I just want to bring you into my world and some of the things that I have. I have a little rubber piece here that I use to move things around. I love that. It's really a little pointed piece. I have a zero Tucado brush over here, a little squirrel hair brush that I use with watercolor. It really holds the water well. And then there are these silver ultramined tiny liners. I love tiny liners. I love like little points. I love pointy brushes that help me when I'm working. This is a black velvet silver size 0. My sizes, I love for detail work, I love 0s, 1s, 2s. I love little little fine liners. This is a size 2 on that one. Golden Natural, it's a script brush for script. This is a really, this is a cool one, Jane Davenport. I love her art supplies because she's not only an artist, but she's a creator of art supplies, and she loves her art supplies, and she loves art. Loves, 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 loves. And because of that, she creates really cool things. This came with one of the things that I got from her. And what's really cool about it is that it's kind of a combination of a round and a really thin, tiny round, and then a long liner. So it can be used in more than one way, is what I'm trying to get at. And so I love this brush for that reason, because it can be used in a lot of different ways as I'm working on things. This is it's a Master Touch. My girl, Levy, she knows. She's like, I know you're on the camera, and so I'm going to start whimpering and whining. So I'm going to pause here in just a second. But this is the Master Touch or brush. I got this at like Hobby Lobby, I think. We have those here in Oklahoma, Hobby Lobby. And what I like to use it for is to actually scrub out things. So if I am working with a line and then I want to soften it, I use this to soften the line, to lift, to move, to shift, to push gently without killing the paper underneath it. So it's a really wonderful little synthetic. It's tiny, it travels well, so it's great. Those are just a couple of samples of some of the different brushes that I use. This one, I love this thing. Look at those little hair things on there. You can also get a brush and cut those into the brush with scissors, tiny scissors. So never underestimate your power as an artist to take something. This came this way, but like, look at that. Look at that. That's kind of cool, the way that it sort of has these two little pointers on there. So I've been a collector of paintbrushes and things for years and years and years. I think I've been hard collecting for like the last 12 years. So I have a lot of different paintbrushes, a lot of different things I reach for and use, a lot of tiny things. This is a Cotman, which is a student grade brush, and it's a 3mm. Look how tiny that is, and it has a little pointy tip thing at the end there. You can see a little pointy tip. So, and then some more of those little rubber brushes to move things around. These are really useful if you're working with acrylic. And also even if you're working with watercolor and you're trying to get a line in there, you're wanting to move something around and make your mark with certain things. So they all have these little cool elements in there. Oh, this one, look at this. This is a 5/0 brush. And I mean, why did I get it? I got it for that tiny little tip right there, that teensy tiny little tip. I don't even know if the camera can zone in on that, if you can really see it very well. Okay, so those are some of the things that I wanted to share with you in here today. This is another great brush that's by Raphael. I don't know, it's a precision brush. So it's great because you can put down color as a, block if you want to, but you can also scrub with it on the end, move around in different ways. It's a precision brush, so you can go along the line of something and move into that. So very cool things. I also have these paint markers, these Sharpie permanent paint markers, and I have this zebra fountain pen, which is really cool. And again, like I don't know if I'm going to use what I'm going to use of these things today. I have no idea. These jelly roll pens are really cool, these white ones. And then I have regular like a Prismacolor, and I picked up the silver one because I thought, ooh, maybe as I'm drawing in some lines for the fireworks, I can use the silver because then depending on what's underneath it or whatever, it's not the same darkness as graphite or charcoal. So I thought I'd use it for drawing in the lines that I will go back in over with the Crayola. Okay. And then let's see, anything else? Where's that little tiny one that I had over here? I want to protect the tip of it. It was a very important brush. And I just threw it back in there. Here we go. No, is that the one? That's not the one. That's not the one. So you can tell I have a lot of these brushes. I will find it. I will find it later and put this little cap back on it to help protect it. Okay. So here we go. As far as Sketchbook, I love a good sketchbook paper. I really like a thickness to it. The thicker, the better. I think that's important for me for watercolor. I use a lot of water, so I want something that can really take the water that I'm putting on it without buckling and turning into like this flimsy little piece of paper. If you don't use as much water, you can use a ton of different papers. But if you are a water lover, and I am a water lover, so I'm going to show these watercolor papers. This is 280 GSM. I don't know. They were almost sold out of these when I got them. I think they had like 3 left of each, and I think I picked up most of those. I think I got 2 of each or something like that. But I want to use these for experiments today with the Brusho, with the watercolor, and just kind of see before I get into a bigger piece and on my super good paper. So my super good paper, yes, we love the super good paper. This is Hahnemühle. It's one of my absolute favorite papers. I think it's like when I think in my mind, oh, I want to reorder or I want something, I want one of these. And the ones that I want are 640 GSM. I want the 300-pound paper, that's 640 GSM. Very important to me. It takes water so differently. So here's what I'm going to say. If you're just wanting to play around and you're, working with acrylics and you're doing things, you can even use cereal boxes, and you can use like, if you put down some gesso on there, or gesso, I'm gonna have to really figure that out. Or, you put on a nice thing on the bottom of that, you can play to your heart's content with anything from, goodness, cardboard to cereal boxes to things that you get in the mail, mailers. You can do a lot. But when you're really wanting to see the beauty of watercolor and the expressiveness of how you work with watercolor on watercolor paper, when you move into professional grade paper at this high level, yes, the paper is expensive, but it's also, these girls, I'm gonna pause this for a minute, they're being naughty. Actually, I think I am just gonna pause it and we'll go from here. One more thing I want to share with you is that in this particular one, this is hey, so today what I want to do is I'm going to be starting out on Sketchbook, and then I'm going to go to my really nice, beautiful, cold pressed Hahnemühle paper. And I need to open that up and do that. This is a piece that I was working on. I want you to see how I could get so many different things happening with the watercolor. A lot of that is how the watercolor works with the paper, okay? So just, I'm saying, really be kind to yourself, and you can run some practice runs on your Canson XL paper. That's the 140 GSM, or let's see, you could also use Arches cold press, and get a really beautiful effect. Arches hot press in the pink pad, ooh, beautiful effects. So all of those papers are really amazing, but when you really want to get down to it for something and really look at some of the effects that you can get, the better quality your watercolor paper is, the better effect you're gonna get. And I want you to see that. I really want you to see that. Okay? Alrighty, so let's see. What I'm gonna do here is, this comes on a block, and the only downside of it is that because it comes on a block, you have to cut off the piece that you were working on. So I don't really know if this piece is finished. I kind of forgot that I had this in here. I don't really know if it's a done deal. But what happens is that it's so cool. You see this with a block. You can take a palette knife, all right, and you go and slide it between the one that you were working on and the next one. And then you run it around the sides. And what this does is it keeps the paper so much more stable. A lot of people love taping their paper down. And I probably will experiment some with that as well. But the other thing that I noticed is that if you get one of these and it comes in the mail, and this is a very important thing, and I would obviously, if I was at a store that carried it, I would be looking at that. But the very edge of the paper on the corner can sometimes get a little beaten up, and it can kind of compress in. And if it compresses in somewhere on the pad like that, all the pages are going to have that as an effect. Now, if you were to take this and you were to actually frame it or put it into a frame, you're going to have something covering that anyway. You're going to have a certain amount of, so it's not horrible. It's not the end of the world, but I am one of those people that is super particular, super, super particular. I'm going to put this one away. So today's project, what we're looking at, again, and we were talking about this earlier, is this firework prompt, okay? And so the idea behind it is I want to do fireworks. We're going to be looking at the wax resist with the Crayola crayon. I'm using white Crayola crayons, but you can also use little tea light candle and just take, you can even cut that tea light candle into 4s so that you have a little point on it, and then take that point and use that for your things and lay it in. So let's start to play. I want to play. I'm tired of talking. I want to play. So I'm going to bring in my water, my water. I'm going to put this up here away for right now. Actually, I'm just going to, I'll put it right side up right there. Another great tool to have on hand with you is your color wheel. So you can see your opposites, what colors would naturally. So if you have any of these colors down on paper, you can go to this yellow. But you see that that yellow is different than some other yellows. And not all yellows will look as good across from that. So you want to see what are the ones that are complementary. A lot of times when I'm painting, say if I'm doing a blue violet and a violet, then I'll also use this yellow orange and this yellow. And so I'll use the complements halfway across the wheel. Maybe I'll do a blue and a blue violet and a violet. And then I'll go across the wheel, boom, boom, boom. And I'll use kind of any one of these oranges. Yellow orange. I love yellow ochre. I also love transparent yellow gold and yellow here. And so I'll play with this range of colors on the page to give me a bigger range of colors as I'm working to do the opposites. And actually, ooh, this is kind of a good, this is really actually, oh my gosh, how synergistic. I did not plan this. Honestly, I didn't plan this. But like you see the oranges there and you see the yellows, and there's a little bit of that bright yellow in there, but not a whole lot of it, right? And then you see the violet in there. That's more of that violet. There's really not as much of the blue violet. There's definitely no blue. So I'm sort of over here, and my complementary color is that where it really pops next to it is with that bright yellow. So you see that, right? Where there's the violet here and the yellow here, and then in this sunflower, that's where it's really popping big time. And then I'm using some adjacent colors with the oranges and the yellow oranges in there to really kind of just give this some light and movement in this abstracty, sunflowery kind of piece. Okay? So if you have a color wheel, it's always a good idea to kind of pull it out and just sort of have it near you, because you may want to reference it at a moment and you don't want to have to go look for it. It's not really fun. Oh, and then I did the palette knife. The palette knife is important for a lot of different reasons, and I love the palette knives and to have them on hand with me when I'm working, especially in acrylics, because I will often use a palette knife to move around acrylic as opposed to a brush. But you can use a brush. So I think that for the purpose of today, I was going to do this small piece because I thought it would be, but then as I'm looking kind of at the camera, it really does not give you the visual that I want you to see. I want you to have access to it. One thing I want you to know is that I think that most artists become afraid with the blank page. It's kind of like writers becoming afraid when they open up a Word document and they're suddenly supposed to produce something brilliant, and they freeze up in front of their computer screen because they don't think they have anything brilliant to come out of them. But it's when they're in flow that that comes to pass. Ooh, one thing I want to share with you is that when I get to empty Kleenex boxes, I love to keep them, if you have animals or cats or pets or birds or, you know, in my case, the dogs, I like to put plastics and things that could fall into this. And then I usually go through a box of Kleenex a week or something like that. So I end up just taking the empty one, and as soon as I get an empty one, I throw out the one in front of it. But it's a great way for art supplies especially to kind of dispose of them if you're worried about either, you know, like you might have a paper towel with some stuff on it, and if it falls on the floor, and say like your dog, my dog, loves to like shred napkins and shred paper and stuff like that. So I don't want her to be eating any of that chemical in there. All right, so let's go here. Fear of the blank page is real. Fear of the blank page is real. And one of the things I feel that I'm really tasked with you and sharing with you is I don't want you to be afraid of all of your blank pages in your books, right? These books are meant to be for you to like get them messy, get them messy, get them messy. And so I want you to feel like you can play and explore and experiment as you go. So what I want to be doing on the big piece, all right, let's go here. We're looking. I have, these are the two individual photos, and then I merged them into this photo, and I took out the color and some of the color in the background and sort of gave it a similar all around lighter color inside of it. And so what I want to do is do a little mini study, first of all. A little mini study. I'll probably grab my graphite, a little eraser pencil, and that, and the regular pencil. Kind of move in here. And so as I'm looking at it, I'm seeing her. She's kind of got, let's see, if I'm going from big to big, I'm going from this size to sort of like this size, so I need to make her head a little bit smaller, body a little bit smaller, fireworks a little bit smaller to adjust to this page size, okay? One thing you can do if you are printing things up, if you're gonna work on a page size, about this page size, you can actually, if you shrink your photo to about the same page size as you're working on, then your proportion will be accurate, so you can be using your eye without having to go from a larger thing to a smaller thing. So that's something that might help you out a little bit. But I'm just gonna go ahead and start to sort of see a little bit here what I can do with sort of drawing her in, bringing her into form a little bit. And I don't know if I want to mess with her hands or not. Hands are not necessarily my forte, and I just really want to be having fun with the piece that I'm doing. Notice I'm really not taking my pencil so much off my page here. I'm just kind of going and working with what is here. Very light with the pencil as I'm moving around some of these things here and going. All right, so there's a bit of an ear, there's a bit of a, you know, the angle of the face there, and then it sort of curves off a little bit that way, and it sort of curves around a little bit. Oops, that was a little right there, right? And then notice that the lips are, if you're looking at the lips, they're in an angle. This is kind of the angle, so you kind of want to maintain the angles on the face, for the nose, the lips, the mouth, as you're starting to kind of work in some of those frameworks there, as you're working with it. And I like to not really try to be a perfectionist about some of these things. I'm just trying to get in, all right, do I see that, are the lips starting to read? I see there's some shadow there that's coming around there. I see a bit of a nose that's, you know, happening here. And actually, I think that this area here is a little bit less big than what I have it as, but she's also got this huge kind of like shadow that's happening right here a little bit. So we're gonna go in and just try to grab that shape of the nose. But then also look, and what you realize is that here is the angle, right? I don't have that angle here. I've goofed up the angle there. So I come back in with my piece, and there I am, and I'm working the angle a bit. This is where I might come in with my eraser a bit. That's why you keep it super duper light. And you just come on in with that eraser, just a tiny bit, just very light, so you don't kill their paper. And that is the one thing, watercolor paper or papers tend to be a little bit, you can hurt your paper. So if you really use a hard eraser on it or whatever. So what I like to do when I'm working is to be very gentle with my application. I like to keep it kind of light. And okay, I think I've kind of got it there, right? So there's the nose, there's some depth in there. This is longer. I'm not trying to get a full real, like, oh, she's exactly the person in the picture. She's really meant to be like a model that is inspiring me. Sort of like if I was doing a life drawing class and I'm just being inspired by the model that's on the stage, you know, I'm probably not going to get the real effects of her while she's there. I also kind of move around a little bit with my pencil as I work, and I usually don't lift it up from the paper too much. I'm not trying to get, I use it kind of the way that you would almost use a paintbrush, or that you would use whatever as you're kind of going in. So I'm like, all right, I'm looking for some of my shadows. Where are my shadows in here? As I go. And again, this whatever this glasses thing that she has on her up here, it's pretty dark, it's pretty big. And there's the glasses piece that's there, and then there's some kind of like a, whatever, like a ivory something there. There's a little bit of light reflected on the top, and right there it sort of shows what that is. And then here it's actually gone because the firework is sort of working its way out. But I'm just, again, kind of moving in and trying to find my way with my chin areas here. And this is a nice time to just kind of, usually when I'm doing this, I've got music on in the background. I let my brain go. I just kind of relax, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm working on a little bit of this, showing a little bit of that hairline there, and then looks like there's a finger that kind of comes up there, and where's that? Do I want to do hands? Still not really sure that I want to do hands. Will I make it read on this little piece? Do I want to work on that on this piece, or do I really want to put that in when I'm working on the other one? Or maybe I should kind of explore a little bit here when I'm on this piece so that I can figure it out. All right, there's the thumb and it's upside down, and there's the nail, and there's some light. So we start playing with that. Again, you can take your pencil and hit the angle, and then here you're hitting the angle on your page as you're going, right? Working with your angles and exploring that area there. And then there it is. There's the other thumb that's there. There's a little bit of a nail, and there's the bottom of the thumb and the top. I mean, it looks a little bit disjointed as it is anyway, the way that it's on here, because I sort of got rid of the black background on that and merged it with the, so that finger's way too long by comparison to that. So we come back to it. Maybe I need to elongate this fingernail a little bit and then come in. So it's a lot of these little adjustments, and as you're going and you're playing with it, there's a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there, another adjustment there, another adjustment there. And actually, what would be kind of cool is to not really have it be hands. As I'm looking at my piece here, I almost see like wings, like, feathers, wings, something like that. And I kind of like that theme even a little bit more. So I'm going to play with that a little bit on this piece. Because my brain's moving more into like wings, and I'm thinking of like angels, and I'm thinking of, maybe an angel dancing in the sky with the firework. And I'm sort of allowing myself to go there in my mind of how cool that would be, that the angels dancing in the sky, watching over us. And, I believe in angels. We have, I was raised Catholic, and a large part of, teaching had to do with angels and angels watching over us. So, and I think when I was little, I had like little angel statues and things that like came from my family, at birthday times and things like that. Pretty statues, maybe even like little music box things or whatever. So again, we're looking at shortening this, but as I'm looking at it, as I'm looking at it, I almost did a 1-to-1 here, right? So I didn't smallify the face on this piece. I did it more to that. So it becomes now, it's actually becoming a study that's more about like this and this and this and this. So it's more of a 1-to-1 here. I don't care about that. I mean, that's not even, I don't need to use her full body, but what I do see is that some of her shape won't come out. So I'll probably not get down to her hip level. In fact, probably just a little bit of that angle in there, of that movement. And then I still like that, like the idea of her fingers almost having firework abilities on them as well as I'm playing with that. So then here we are, and I want to go in with this silver underneath. So again, if I do silver and then I put this white over the silver, it'll be more of that bluey silver color that comes out from under the page. Whereas graphite, look at that, it's dark by comparison if you're really looking. I don't know how well can you see how that sort of came together between the two. I'm going to show you again. So again, it's soft, it's not fully put together, it's like note-taking for me. It's like note-taking. And then I'm going to go in with my colors and play. And so this note-taking, you know, at some point this becomes a mute point. This piece here is just a reference to kind of get to something. And that's what I'm working on, is how do I get to something. So I'm looking at the way that the firework works. And honestly, it's kind of interesting to me to see, because I think that, I mean, I know I look at fireworks in the sky, but it's also interesting to see, how do these lines really work? Is it vertical? It's not, you know, it's not like you take a ruler and go around. It's these, as they come up, they're a little thicker here, they're lighter there, thicker here, lighter there. And they also have a slight bend, very slight bend. There's a bigger bend there. So as they are going out in the sky, their bends happen. So here we are, I'm working on my little bends. And again, this is a sketch, so I'm not trying to make this one be perfect. And we may actually, I think I may really focus on this one today, and then stop this particular video, and then go into the more in-depth creation of it in one of the higher levels, the backstage, behind the scenes, of taking this and moving it into something there. I think that is probably the best way to share this, because it's so what I'm doing here is I'm actually learning as I'm going, right? I'm learning, how does the firework actually read as it's going around in a circle? And then there's this part of me that's like, do I even need this stupid pencil to like do the lines, now that I sort of understand this and I'm sort of working on it? Because what I really want are these little dots and divots and little things on there. I want that stuff to show up. So then, do I really want the lines? No, I really don't. I really don't want the lines. So I might go in with my eraser a little bit. The thing that's interesting about the Prismacolor, and different between Prismacolor and, say, graphite, is that it has a wax base to it, and if you push down hard enough on it, it's sort of if you're working with your Prismacolors, what happens is that they soften out quite a bit and become like a waxy, mergy thing. Whereas your graphite, you can still, if it's light, you can really still lift. You can really lift a lot with your graphite. You can really blend. That is something I want to share with you, which is really cool. Where is it? Here we are. Now this, something I got off of Amazon. I think it's like a makeup. It's like a makeup, or I don't think it's intended to be specifically for drawing. But this side is like soft, and this side is like harder. Maybe it is, because this reminds me more of like the little drawing stumps, how they're kind of have a little bit of that. But I take the soft side of this, and I go in on my graphites and I move them around on the paper. And look at what starts to happen here is that you start to see an emergence of a face that is in there. So you lose some of what is in there, but you also start to gain something that starts to emerge from the page, from where you're working on it. So something starts to emerge for you. And that emergence is very, very exciting. Now, you don't want to lose your lights and dark. So here we are again. We have light here. So I want to pull that light again on the paper. We have light up here. I want to pull that light up there, just so that I kind of keep that lightness. There's light on the forehead going into the hair here. But then there's that finger that's kind of there, which is more energy. Now we're going to read that more as energy as we're going along. And then here, like on her nose, her little nose is really actually very light. So you do not want to lose that lightness, because you'll have to go in with something more like a gouache or something like that to regain and lighten those areas, or the acrylic white or whatever. So I like to pull my lights again as I'm going. The ear is such a complicated, like concave, like seashell type of organ, and so it's very interesting when you're working with that to sort of put that in. So again, you see how as I'm pulling lights, but then look what happens here. This person starts to emerge a little bit more. There's a little bit more emergence of something that's there that isn't of this. She's a little different. She's her own creature. She's got her own little face that I'm starting to see a little differently than this one here. So important, very important. Normally I spend a lot of time going back, and when I say a lot of time, I go back and forth and I really play with something. So here we are now. We're going to use this wax resist, and we're going in and we're fireworking it. We are fireworking it here, and I'm actually kind of working almost alongside of some of these silver marks, because again, the silver mark with darkness over it will go back, but if there's just white over the silver, then it's not going to give me the same freedom. So I'm kind of going in with white. You can't really see it. Maybe at an angle, it's almost like you have to trust it. You have to trust your mark making in this zone. Not on the face. Don't use it on the face. Only use this in your firework zones to get those lines coming out. And notice that in the middle, these are smaller lines, then they are longer, then they're longer, then they're longer. So it's small, longer, 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 small, longer, 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 small, longer, 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 small, longer, 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 small, longer, longer. Okay? See? We're doing some of that. And I can't see it. Honestly, I cannot see it on the paper. I sort of can see it, like when I'm sort of on the side. I can feel it a little bit, like it's almost like, feels a little braille-ish, you know, like where I can feel it kind of lifting on there. I can feel that there's some wax resist happening there, but I can't really see it. But I don't care that I can't see it. Again, here, the firework is coming down. It's really expanding in this area here. So on this piece, I want to expand it down and maybe even expand it more, right? We're playing, we're really playing. We're really excited with what we're creating here. We're going in, ooh, Now you can see this, it's going against the, here against the hand. And as it picks up on the graphite, it's moving that graphite. It's making that line stick more. So it's just kind of an interesting effect. Nothing that, and then I go in and I do some little dots. And I'm gonna really get on the paper here and try to get some of these little bits and dots, because when we go to put our watercolor on and we're really playing, we're gonna be seeing how, yeah. So we're kind of, again, we're going around in our firework language here. And this is where, if you're listening to music, oh my gosh, so liberating. It just feels really good. It's like, it's almost like your hand starts to dance on the page. And I think that's really how a lot of my abstraction was born for the work that I do. Is that it's like, it starts to take on a whole life of its own, right? It really starts to do that. So again, it right now probably does not seem that, this in here is almost like a cross hatching. So you can kind of go along the body and do some cross hatching, which is little X's. Line, 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 line. Okay? And just, it kind of gives a little bit of form to that body that's there, the little dancer. And then let's just say her hands really are energy and motion. And what we want to do is highlight the energy of what is going on in her hands. So we have the one hand that's kind of like up high up here, right? This one. We're just kind of giving that energy, the energy and motion. And then I'm doing little dots, little dots, little dots, little dots on the page. Now you can see, right? When I started with my crayon, this is what it was brand new, and this is where it is now. So I'm really putting in a lot of wax resist on this paper as I'm going, but you won't see it until we start to play with color. And then you're gonna be like, what is this strange magic? At least that's how I'm gonna be. What is this strange magic that we call art that makes my heart sing? What is this? What is this strange magic? What is it? Okay, so there we are. Now for this, I have made an executive decision at this point. I do not want any of these. I'm not there with those right now. I'm not feeling any of that. My gut is just like, that's a no. So I'm gonna keep my papers here, some of my reference stuff, right? I'm playing here some of my reference material. I guess keep that closer here a little bit. Make sure you can see okay on that. All right, I'm gonna pull this Sennelier over here, all right? Because all I wanna see is freaking color. That's all I want. I just want color. Color. And so for that, I'm gonna use my brush that pulls with a ton of water. And I'm gonna use a lot of water. I use these two. These are really, I think for, I got them both, well really I got them so that I could take them with me and do some plein air or whatever. Okay, here we are, we're gonna go for the purples. We'll talk story in a minute here. And we're mixing some color there. Do you see how that's kind of working with that? I'm mixing those colors. And then I'm releasing some of that onto the brush in there, trying to, and actually I'm just gonna start, I'm gonna start here. Speckle onto my paper. Happy day. Yep, this is what makes me happy right there. Adding some color, and then adding water, and then seeing how does that water, oh, look at this, look at this. So this is your wax resist in here. This is your firework, baby. This is what happened with that nib. Look at that. So I really like that effect. I really like that effect. Really, really, really like that effect. This is that ink color, that ink blue. Love this color. It's probably one of my favorite colors. There's like Payne's gray, ink, anywhere from like a dark Payne's to so purple, and look at that for sky and background, right? Look at that right there. Do you see that? Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Okay, let's see if I can get you closer so you can see it better. I want you to really be able to see what's happening here. All right. Look at this right there. Wow. I think wow. To me, this is like magic. This is freaking magic. This is where like my heart sings. This is where I'm happy. Happy place. And usually at this point, I'm just like going, ah, on the inside. You know, my whole interior is almost vibrating with the music, and my soul's happy. My heart feels light, and I don't really care about everything else that's happening outside of this moment here. I mean, this feels very much like a magical piece of something that I'm getting to experience and explore. Now, what's really cool is to go back in with your watercolor, and so I'm dipping into the pan itself. Then I'm kind of going into the area that I mixed where it's a little bit thicker, and then I go in on the paper and just look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at what happens here. Look at what's happening here. There's that water on there, and then I'm going in on the paper. Do you see this? See what's happening here? Oh, and then that beautiful wax resist that's right there. How amazing that is. See this? I mean, beyond happiness for me right now. This is like, there's a part of my brain that is saying, like, this is what you were created for. This is who you are. This is what, you know, you were made for this. And so there's joy. There's an extreme joy. And honestly, I'm just going to say, this is a piece of paper. This is a white crayon or a candle, you know, a tea light candle, whatever it is that you want to use. It's water. And right now it's 2 watercolor colors. Literally, the Sennelier that's the purple, and then this inky colored one that's the darker one. And mixes of those 2. And I do a lot of my color mixing on paper, so I don't always do. I mean, I do some color mixing in the pans, and it depends on what I'm using. Oh, right there. Do you see this? See how cool it is to be bringing in those darkest darks? So this dark sky and this wax resist, it's just saying like, look, we're here. Look at how beautiful that is. Do you see that? Are you seeing that? This is just, oh, the angels are singing right now, as far as I'm concerned. That's what's happening here. Yeah. Right there. It's crazy how good that is. And you know, right now I'm keeping the face. It's sort of, the face is soft right there because I'm not really sure about any of that right now. I don't really care about it right now. I mean, I know it's there and I care about it. What I could do with the face to protect some of those white is I could go in with the wax resist there at the top of the glass, at the bottom of the glass, glasses, a little bit on her lip, a little bit on her nose. But I don't really want to do too much of that. A little bit on her forehead, a little bit. not too much, because I can't see what I'm doing with that. I'd rather kind of get the control as I go back in. But I do feel like she needs to have a certain amount of that lack of control, because she's dancing and she's a firework and she's like one with the firework. So I think that she shouldn't completely be, what is the word that I'm looking for? I think that she almost should match the medium in a little bit of a way of what I've got going on here. This is hilarious, because I have noticed that when I'm watching other artists instruct and they get into their flow state, they lose their words. And I truly believe that it's because your flow state, your creative brain is really your right hemisphere. You're right. So left is language, right is spatial. And as an artist, the right brain right now for me is like firing, wiring, just so happy. And it's like in the God zone right now. It's really in that place where it just feels like so exciting to me that I could create something that looks this cool in my sketchbook in like, how long? I mean, really, how long has this taken to create something that looks this freaking cool? And with like so few tools, honestly, in my bag. Like, let's get there. There's that. This, these two, that's it. The eraser, and this lavender or purple, and this dark inky blue. So adding more water into that. I am not good about keeping my inks and my paints. Like I jump around from one to the other, like, so I am not the person to model for paint care, because to be a really clean artist with watercolor, if you have like a palette like this and you're kind of playing around, what you would normally do is you'd go into your water, you'd go into your color neat without, you wouldn't like tap into these other colors and then go into that color. You'd go into your color neat. You take it into the palette, you swirl it around with some water. You can make it darker consistency or an almost watery light consistency, right? You can tap some of that off of your brush into that pen right there. And then when it dries, you can just add a little bit of water to it and you reactivate it, and you can be working with that same color again. So you're not, and then you can even add water into your brush to soften out some of the, so you can go in with water. You can paint with water. This is the other thing that's amazing about watercolor, is that you can actually paint with water. There are my brushes, right? I didn't even use them yet. I didn't even use them, but I didn't want to right now on this. I kind of want to, but I almost am like, if I did another piece, I might use them then. But I was going to lay in my color and then use the brush show on top of it to sprinkle in, but I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to mess with it because I'm actually really loving this piece. Now, I want you to see, this is not, this paper is a sketchbook pad paper, and it is also not on a block. So do you see what's happening here is that the paper is morphing, but it's actually holding, you see how much water I use, right? It's actually holding the water very well. So I'm pretty impressed with how well it's holding that water. And so I actually like this paper a lot so far as I'm using it. Do you see how important it is to not be afraid of a white piece of paper? Because whatever you create on that piece of paper is going to be something that means something to you, that you care about. You know, with this, I could go in just very gently and map out some more of the spaces on her, around her face, around her body, around those things. And see, I kind of want to show you when you decide to go in and you're working on a face or something like this, and if you don't want to draw it all in, or you only slightly draw in, then you can go in with your paintbrush and very delicately begin to bring in some color. I'm trying to decide if I want to go into a fleshier tone, like a fleshier tone with her face, which would be combining some yellow, a little bit of red, a little yellow, a little bit of red, a little yellow, a little bit of red, a lot of water, so that it's really dilute. Right? And that becomes kind of like a bit of a fleshier tone. It's little, that's always a little more scary to me, is to kind of go in and try to put in a color that I haven't really fully tested on the paper yet or anything. I'm like, oh, that could ruin it if I, but it's a super, super light, and it's also gold against that purple, so that the two colors will cancel each other. They kind of cancel each other out. They can become a little bit muddy, but they're a nice complement when there's some gold in there. And then I just tap that out on her face. So there it is a little bit. I can add a little bit more of that golden face there for her. And honestly, the way that the person who created this original piece, the Marcin Sajour from Unsplash, he did her in green, and I kind of thought about that a little bit, like, ooh, maybe I could do green, but I don't think so. I think I want to do like a purple and gold. Purple and gold are big time colors of mine. They make me happy. Purple and gold. And I think of those as also like spiritual colors, like where, like if you think about clearing your aura and you're meditating and you're sort of in that zone, part of what you can do if you're in a meditative space is to imagine purple light flowing down from the universe in through the top of your head, through your entire body, down through into the floor. Same thing with gold. You can bathe yourself in gold, and then you can also bathe yourself in white light. And so I always think of kind of like a pearlescent, like white light. All right, see how it's getting dirty? I don't really like the dirtiness right there. I don't want that dirty in there. I want to keep some of that actual pretty gold in there. So I'm tapping back out. I'm pulling off onto my, and I'm using that as also a place to just kind of pull some water off of my brush. Paper towel works great for that too, but my paper towel's not here, so I'm using Kleenex. Got paper towels over there. That's the biggest thing, is that I spend a lot of time. Okay, now see as it's drying lighter. That's kind of an important thing to look at too. And one thing that I'm looking at as I'm looking here is that my firework here is a lot more well-defined, whereas this one here sort of went somewhere a little bit different than what I wanted. I wanted it to be more like that down here too. But I couldn't see what I was doing, and I wasn't patient enough to go in with my silver pencil and kind of line where I wanted it to be, and then use the white adjacent, just right adjacent to that, to those lines. So I think that if I was really working seriously, like if I'm working on a piece that I might want to, like, say I wanted to take this concept and I wanted to blow it up into a bigger piece, and then I wanted to maybe think about, like, all right, maybe this is something I want to do as a more serious piece. Then what would I do kind of differently? Well, one, I would take a lot more time with my bringing in the character, so that I really had some more clarity about where she belongs. this is sort of weird, but I have a deep desire to suddenly hit her up with some green. This green here in the Sennelier palette is another one of those greens that I just, like, it's another color that, oh, and I want you to see that green. It's just so fucking, just blows me away. So please forgive that I just said that so effing. It's so gosh darn good. Okay, let's put that. Yeah, I might have to try to edit that out. I'm a little bit of a pirate, I have to say, in my speech. I always have been. I feel like I almost have a little bit of a Tourette's syndrome, never fully diagnosed, but I feel like when I get upset, I have a very hard time not expressing myself with explicatives, and when I'm, emphatic or whatever, I tend to like my explicatives. So that's a part of me, and I'm trying to see if I can moderate that or modulate that for this platform, but I don't know that I can. I think I just need to. I just gotta be me, and if it works for people, great, and if it doesn't, that's fine too. Oh, there, see that? Look at that. Amazing with that wax resist, bringing in those darks. Look at how pretty that is. It's pretty amazing. Wow. That dark color. And then it works really well if you're looking at it with that green. Look at that, how that works in there. Very exciting. Very, very exciting. And this purple, I really do often, if I'm using it, I use it neat. I use it as its own color because it's so gorgeous that it's hard for me to want to mix it up with other colors and take away from some of that amazing purple vibrancy that's in there. And when I really want that purple color, when I'm really in the mood for that color, I pull out that set, even if it's the only color from that set that I'm using. So I think that's kind of an important thing to note, is that you will find your way with your colors as you're working on things that will be your place. I sort of want to do her face with that green too. Is that weird? I don't know. But she's kind of coming to me in that way, like, hey, I want to be green. Okay, I'm just gonna listen. I'm gonna listen. Yep. Just gonna listen. I like purple and green together. And those right there, that it's dark. Now, if you're trying to get to dark black, like a black color, you can take this Van Dyke Brown, deep dark brown, and mix it with some of this ink blue. And the color that comes up is really a very beautiful color that is a more vibrant black than black. All right, so there's her glasses that are on her head up there. Trying to paint her upside down. So I need to really get myself into position here for myself painting this, because I don't want to mess it up completely by holding it and trying to do it at an angle for the camera. All right, so there we go. We've got some dark in there, and then we have the dark that's around her fingers, but those are really just strands of energy. They're coming. There's some more strands of energy here that are coming. And then there's some of that, the face right there. And that cute little tight chin she has. She has a cute little chin. And then this whole side of her face here is in the dark, going up to like where her nose is up there. And actually that's interesting because it got pretty dark right there. All right. And then, let's see. I think I want to bring out a little bit more, whoops, a little bit more of that, of the darker green. This is a darker green. I'm going to mix together with that greener green, that brighter green and the darker green, putting them together in there. And I feel like I want some of that to kind of move through as some of the darks around the exploding fireworks in some areas. And I may take my right here, and I do this a lot. I love how paint splatter works. It's just, to me, it's like magic. It's really magical. And then I might hit it with a little bit of water splatter on top. A lot of times, I usually have my water bottle here with me, but it's not here right this second. I was planning, and it's over there, and I don't want to hop up and go get it. So I'm in my space over here, and I'm just like, really enjoying what's happening here in the creation process. And I want to take some of this green again and kind of go down and look around, like sort of some of the element of like where I see a little bit of her body kind of dancing. Brighter green, darker greens. But you can use whatever colors you want. These may not be your colors at all, and that's totally fine. Her forehead got really lost up there a little bit, so I'm just going to hit it with this a bit to see where I'm at. And then I got to go back in, but I want to go back in with some of that more vibrant green and lighter. I just want it light up there. Lighter and vibrant. And I'm thinking I'm sort of losing her face here. I see it, but I'm also losing it. Like her ear is here, but I'm also losing it. And I'm kind of, she's almost fading into the background. I'm not sure how I feel about that. In some ways, I almost like that she's fading into the background. I am the abstract artist, right? So to me, sometimes I feel like getting too literal or moving into form sometimes jacks my parade. I sort of like my brain to be able to see different elements. Like I still see the eyes, I still see some nose and mouth, but she's in there, but she's fading into it in a way that is different than the picture, right? Where she was really much more kind of standing out and blending with it. But here now, she's honestly like really fading into it. And I think that's kind of how it works when we fade into the music, when we're dancing and we're really like in the zone and playing and having fun. It's like we become one with that environment that we're in. And it's such a liberating, freeing, happy feeling to just dance and sort of lose yourself in that space of music and movement and just being one with that. And so here we are as we're moving into this and kind of coming to a place where I feel like I naturally need to take a little bit of a break for myself, just to sort of I don't know if I was painting this at like 2 or 3 in the morning, because I paint a lot overnight. Then if I was in the place of painting this overnight, I definitely would not be taking a break right now. I would just be in the zone. There would be no sound, no people around, no distraction, no, oh gosh, you know, what's going on with the dogs. The dogs would be totally sleeping, completely zonked out. Now, I'm like, I love my watercolors. I do, I love my watercolors. Here, let's see, we've got this. It's just kind of speaking to me a little bit. And I sort of want to go into the zone in here, in the middle, where it's at. And I kind of want to mush around, mush around, mush around. And what's happening, interestingly, is that some of that color is coming off into the paint that's on there, and it's merging, and it's mixing, and it's resisting. So it's that little bit right there. Merging, mixing, resisting, merging, resisting, existing, all of that. And so I'm having fun with that aspect of bringing those, playing with that a bit. And I don't think you can necessarily, like, you wouldn't necessarily know that's, it's like you're not really looking at it thinking, oh, that's, and then the Neocolor too, like, you wouldn't necessarily look at this and know that that's what's happening here, but, like, I know that that's what's happening here, but I'll forget it. I won't remember when after the piece is done. This is one of those things where when something really cool happens, oftentimes we kind of forget later, because we're like in flow, and when it happens in flow, and then we kind of fall out of flow again, we might look and go like, how on earth, what did I do? How did I create that? How did I make that look like that? And I just kind of love the way that's working, right? It's sort of, this paper's taking it really well too. It's sort of, kind of is mixing nicely in there with that. Okay, there it is. All right. And a little bit more, maybe a little something here. I'm not sure what that is. And actually, this is where, I don't want to leave it messy, because when you are then later going for another piece and you pick up for your beautiful bright green, if it's got a bunch of purple on it, you're going to ruin your piece if you, or not necessarily ruin it, but you're going to have a possibly happy, possibly unhappy accident with that. This. Okay. I am going to just use this on this board. This board right here is so cool. It's a Caran d'Ache mixing board, and it on this side has some grain to it, so you can use the color and go on here, and there's like a graininess to it it'll come off on there. The other side is completely smooth. It is such a cool little board, and it's like, to me, it's something like it's like a will travel, you know, and then you can add water to that, and then there's that color that comes up from there. You can pull from that. You can see it's on the brush, and then you can go back in and do some light color work here using a really fine point of the brush, working into some of these layers. Okay, so here I am, and I'm taking this acrylic ink, and I am a splatter fan. This brush, the handle's normally on, I've got a couple of them in there. The handle's normally blue, like a light blue, and I'm trying to remember the brand. I'm not remembering the brand right this second. But we'll get there. And then it's not really, you can kind of see little dots are kind of coming off on that, but not enough. It's not enough. It needs a lot more, needs to be more doused. There, oof, no. You see how that kind of went on her face and really doused it there? That's not where I wanted to really douse it. I wanted it around her face. So in that case, what you would normally do is you would take something and put it over the face area, like so. Like you take a piece of paper or something and you just kind of like say, okay, I want to splat, but I don't want to splatter face. So I'm pulling that up, but see, it's not coming up that quickly or that easily. There. Now, that's where this comes into play. A lot of people swear by the use of wipes with their acrylics to help them pull off. I gotta stick that back in there kind of a little bit. There we go. I don't want it to get dry for the next round. What we're going to use it for. But so see where we had this like white dot in here, and you can use this to kind of go in and really almost lift off the majority of your acrylic on there. So a lot of people really love using these, and I'm experimenting with them. I don't often use them, but sometimes I do. What I really want to do is be bringing in some more light. And so I'm kind of playing here a little bit. I'm not sure. It's a little too literal of a line for me, and I'm not not wanting it to be such a literal line, if that makes any sense. So I go in with some water and then back in here and then tap into those areas. It is sometimes easier to tap into those areas when it's completely dry, or sometimes I like to do it when it's wet, and then you can kind of get a little bit of that watery adventure. Like it kind of takes its own little adventure down the way as it's going. Here we go. Here we go. Yep. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. Right there. So I like to add in lights that way. And let's see here. I have a feeling that in future videos I'll probably go quiet and play some music so you can watch, but also so that my brain is allowed to just release into the working with the mediums and you can watch what's happening. But I think it's been also very fun to sort of describe certain things as I'm doing them with you here. Wow. I mean, I just love some of these effects that are happening. I can almost see that as like the base of an eye, like a little bit of like maybe that's the bottom of her eye, a little bit, her nose in there, and then her lips. So we'll see if this is where that stays. One thing that's also interesting is that you kind of, face can morph. Your face may morph. I've started with faces that have open eyes and then they end up with closed eyes. I started just the opposite with closed eyes and then their eyes open. for me as I'm working on the piece. And really, it's what do you start to see as you're working on it. One of the things that I think is very cool is the process of layering, and what I love with watercolor especially is that it gives you that ability to really play and layer, and that's part of why I love using mixed media, is that there's so much fun in the process of using that mixed media and playing into a piece as you're going. And each piece ends up having this whole life all on its own as it starts to take on that life. And there's this face that's in here. She's in there. I see an eye, I see a nose and her mouth, but she's probably going to emerge. My she that looks nothing like the picture is still in the emergence process. And I may end up actually drawing into her a little bit with the Prismacolor after I do some more of this background, because it's just, oh my God, this stuff is like delicious to me. It's, I can't get enough of it. Like this, I could just do this every day for the rest of my life, which is good because that's what I want to do every day for the rest of my life. But it brings so much joy to me to experience this. I remember when I was taking art classes back in San Diego days, and I, whatever friends, family were asking, like, how do you like it? What do you think about it? And everything. And I was like, gosh, if I had known the joy that this brings me. I had worked with dolphins in Hawaii, and working with the dolphins brought me so much joy. And while I was in Hawaii, I ended up having this dream before I was to leave, where this like grandmaster artist walked out of his studio, and he, like, all of his paintings became mine, and I knew they were mine. And he, like, walked down to the ocean's edge, and then, like, walked into the ocean, and then, like, disappeared. And then the dolphins were there, and they were kind of trying to tell me that it was going to be okay that I left. And I didn't realize at the time, but I think it was really like a spiritual dream of that the artist in me basically accepting that gift, right? That it was mine to carry on in, and that the dolphins were okay with me leaving Hawaii to go forward to pursue this. By the way, when you work with dolphins, you have really intense dreams with the dolphins. And other people that I know that like worked with the dolphins too would say that they had the intense dreams with the dolphins. Oh my gosh, look at my hands. I'm all speckle. I'm all speckle. That's what I is. I is speckle. I'm a full-on speckle show here right now with all these different dots. Ugh. Just what is happening, I think, in my brain with doing these things and sharing this, and it brings me so much joy. And that's what I want for you. I want you to not be afraid of the blank page. I want you to relax and realize that when you go into your art journal, this place is for you. It's a place for you to play. It's a place for you to have fun and to really explore and to allow yourself to be happy, 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 happy. Regardless of what's happening in the world. It is a place for you to escape. It is a place for you to be safe. It's a place for you to be heard. It's a place for you to find joy. It's a place for you to just really experiment and allow yourself to be the best, brightest, most visionary part of you that you can be. And it's a very important gift that we're given when we're tasked as being a creative. And if you're here, you are creative, all right? And the more you play with the craft, the more you will experience how to work with different mediums. You'll get more out of experimentation and journaling and making mistakes and figuring things out than you will out of anything, because your brain will be assimilating this information, and you begin to develop this library of awareness around certain things. There are pieces that I look at where I did something with my brushstroke that I absolutely love, and I cannot remember how I created it. So the other thing that you can do, if you want to, is when you come out of your flow state and you're still somewhere like halfway between in it and out of it, to take down some notes and give yourself a little bit of a path to find your way back again, because it's a lot of fun. So if you're looking at a piece and you're trying to make some, like, you could just turn on your audio on your phone and talk about what you see in your piece so that you would have an audio recording of it for yourself. You don't even have to like write it down if you're not into language at that moment. You don't want to write. But I mean, isn't this pretty amazing of what's been being created here with literally like 2, 3, 4 colors? I mean, it's like a little purple, a little bit of that dark ink, playing with some greens, a little bit of the fleshy tone that I kind of abandoned a bit as I went toward green. And then this beautiful, super opaque white Holbein acrylic ink. That's this liquid. Shake it well. There are little dots inside of it, so you want to shake it super, super great in there. All right. So I'm going to say that's a wrap for right now. And that's a wrap.